This is Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa. The story of resurgent and burgeoning Africa is here, only on the Pulse of Africa channel. Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
Hello and welcome. I am Samia Mohammed and this is Post of Africa News. Come to you live from Addis Ababa, the political heart of Africa. We'll be bringing you the latest updates and stories across the continent. Let's start with Ethiopia. Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and President of Azerbaijan Ilham Aliyev held in-depth discussion in Baku aimed at elevating bilateral ties, culminating in the signing of a defense cooperation agreement and several memoranda of understanding. He noted on social media posts that over the past few years, partnership of the two countries has steadily expanded, underpinned by recent economic cooperation in the aviation sector, collaboration in industrial parks, and free trade zones and joint engagements between Ethiopian Investment Holdings and its Azerbaijani counterpart. These initiatives have laid a strong foundation for the continued strengthening of our bilateral relations, which through today's in-depth discussion, we have agreed to further consolidate and elevate, the Premier said. The visit also saw the two sides preside over the signing of an agreement on cooperation in the field of defense and the exchange of several memoranda of understanding, signaling a new chapter in security collaboration. The agreements can be described as a significant step toward deepening political trust and expanding economic integration between Addis Ababa and Baku, reflecting a shared commitment to long-term partnership. I express my sincere gratitude to President Ilham Aliyev for the warm and gracious welcome extended to me on my maiden official visit to Azerbaijan, Prime Minister Abiy said. The relations between Ethiopia and Azerbaijan have strengthened in recent years, marked by sustained diplomatic engagement and expanding areas of collaboration. Both countries have registered rapid development supported by forward-looking policies and an increasingly active international presence. The visit underscores Ethiopia's ongoing diplomatic outreach and Azerbaijan's growing engagement with the African nations, reflecting a shared interest in diversifying partnership and advancing mutual development goals. South Africa has officially launched the R100m Wits strategic hydrogen localization investment facility, marking a significant step in advancing the country's green hydrogen ambitions and reindustrialization drive. Deputy President Paul Mashatile unveiled the facility at the University of the Witwatersrand's West Campus on Friday, describing the initiative as a national turning point aimed at rebuilding domestic manufacturing capacity and strengthening industrial development. Mashatile says South Africa's green hydrogen ambitions must anchor a new era of reindustrialization, urging the country to build what we use and innovate what we export. He emphasized that the project is designed to drive innovation, create quality jobs, and contribute to a just and sustainable economy. The Wits Sahli initiative is a partnership between Liquide South Africa, Wits University, and the Localisation Support Fund. It forms part of the country's broader hydrogen society roadmap and is equipped with 110 kilowatt electrolyzer, 200 kilogram hydrogen storage capacity, and a 200 kilowatt clean power output system. Mashatile stressed that localization is central to the project, warning that South Africa cannot remain dependent on imported technologies in emerging sectors such as green hydrogen. He cited the decline in manufacturing's contribution to GDP as evidence of the urgency to strengthen local value chains and support small businesses. Higher Education and Training Minister Buti Manamela attended the launch, with the Deputy President highlighting the critical role of universities in developing the skills needed to grow the hydrogen economy. The facility is expected to be fully operational by 2028 and aims to support locally manufactured hydrogen components, enterprise development, and South Africa's competitiveness in global green markets.
From the north, we brought our mountain strengths. From the south, we brought the wisdom of the earth. From the east and west, we brought our courage and our faith. The enemy saw an army of tribes. They saw division. They saw weakness. What they failed to saw was a nation. A farmer with a spear stands next to a nobleman with rifle. A woman carrying water for the fighters. Her resolve as strong as any shield. This was the symphony of Adwa. Adwa taught us the most vital lesson, that our diversity is not our weakness. It is our ultimate strength. Divided, we are stories united. We are an epic. That is the legacy of Adwa. That is the future of Africa.
If you don't tell your story, it will be told by others. They'll talk of hunger, they'll talk of war, they'll talk of conflict, but they'll not say the things that are happening in Africa that are positive.
This is POA, a very new media organization in Ethiopia.
We have to be voice for ourselves. There is no one else that can tell our story better than us.
If it's defending African matters, then go for it. Go for Pulse Media.
This is the Pulse of Africa. Tune in, follow the journey, and learn about the news and what's shaping our African continent.
I am really impressed by the work that they're doing by telling the African story from Africa for Africans. I think it's definitely needed.
Please subscribe to the Pulse of Africa on all platforms.
A high-level dialogue between the community of Latin American and Caribbean states and African nations was convened in Addis Ababa. The meeting underscored the growing partnership between the two regions, with Colombia currently holding the CELAC presidency. In his opening remarks, Colombia's ambassador to Ethiopia, Jason Arcadio Menses Copete, emphasized the immense potential and responsibility both regions share in strengthening ties.
The relationship between CELAC and the African continent is of strategic importance. Together, both regions represent more than 2 billion people, nearly 1/3 of the world's population. This broad demographic and cultural scope provide significant collective strength as well as a historic responsibility to promote bi-regional cooperation for the benefit of their peoples.
CELAC is working closely with the African Union to advance cooperation in areas of mutual interest, including South-South collaboration, climate justice, the protection of the rights of Africans and people of African descent, the promotion of international law, multilateralism, and the expansion of trade and investment. The forum brought together ambassadors, representatives of civil society, and members of academia from both regions. Speaking to Pulse of Africa, Cuba's ambassador to the African Union, Lucas Domingo Hernandez Poledo, highlighted the shared history, culture, and identity between Africa and Latin America, stressing that deeper cooperation will bring tangible benefits to the peoples of both regions.
And there is historical link in the cultural, the music, a lot of things that we can work together. The historical relation that the Afro-descendant slavery were to Cuba or were to Latin America, they return to Africa to ask cooperation. For this reason, I think that the forum between African Union and Latin America is too important. It's too important because Africa and Latin America can do a lot of things from the cooperation South-South.
Mexico's ambassador to Ethiopia in the African Union, Alejandro Ives Estivil Castro, echoed this sentiment, noting that collaboration is particularly vital at a time when global multilateralism faces unprecedented challenges.
We are the vast majority of the world. We are the growing countries. We are the countries that can offer a future, and the youth population and women and all that is in our countries. So in the first part, we are giving voice to all that. The second part in which this is very, very important is that this first summit could provoke a very interesting agenda for precise, very concrete and pragmatic projects. I'm thinking about agriculture, I'm thinking of food security, climate change, helping each other, but from South-South experience in a way that is going to really foster and provoke that we as countries take off, considering what is happening in Africa and in Latin.
Under Colombia's leadership, CELAC has promoted substantive engagement with the African Union, including contributing to the realization of first CELAC African Union Heads of State Summit. The dialogue in Addis Ababa marked another step toward consolidating relations and amplifying the collective voice of the Global South. The European Union on Thursday announced €63 million in humanitarian funding to support vulnerable communities across Somalia as the country grapples with worsening drought, ongoing conflict, displacement and rising food prices. In a statement, the EU said the funding will prioritize life-saving assistance, including integrated health and nutrition service, treatment for severe and acute malnutrition, emergency cash support, water and sanitation service, protection programs and emergency education. Somalia is facing a sharp rise in food insecurity and malnutrition, with an estimated 6.5 million people experiencing hunger, according to the statement. Humanitarian assessments indicate that about 1.83 million children under age 5 are at risk of acute malnutrition. The EU said the assistance will be delivered through trusted humanitarian partners operating on the ground to ensure aid research those most affected in a timely, inclusive and effective manner. Since 2017, the EU has provided more than €750 million in humanitarian assistance to Somalia, the statement said.
Proceeding Adwa. Remember this. The Europeans carved up our homes with bloodthirst, not because we were the third world, but because we were the first. Because we held gold in our hearts, because we had diamonds for eyes, because oil ran through our veins and a blessing hung in our skies. Remember this, that when they scrambled in the conference in Berlin and callously carved Africa, searing each African's skin, it was not because of their greed or need to sow seed saturated with sorrow, but because through Africa's greatness they envisioned their own tomorrow, the beginning. Barriateri, the Italian general, had ice instead of eyes and a tongue of 5 leather whips. Ras Alula was deafened by the whisper of lies that seeped from his lips. Through Alula's agents who could read the tone of Ethiopian winds, their whisper, we will catch the Italian advance before the advance begins. And with anger, that of lions, and a swiftness of eagle's wings, Alula rose, magnificent, and rode to the foot of Menelik the king.
Now to business news. The Bank of Botswana's Monetary Policy Committee on Thursday unanimously decided to keep the monetary policy rate at 3.5%. Lesego Moseki, Botswana's central bank governor, announced that decision following the committee meeting in Gaborone, the country's capital. Headline inflation increased slightly to 4.1% in January from 3.9% in December 2025, remaining within the medium-term objective range of 3% to 6%, the bank said in a statement. The central bank warned that a planned electricity tariff hike in April could push inflation higher. Inflation was forecast to increase into the medium term, averaging 4.5% in 2026 and 4.7% in 2027, is said. The Botswana Ministry of Finance projects an economic contraction of 0.4% in 2025, mainly due to the continued weak performance of the diamond mining sector. However, the economy is expected to recover in 2026 with a projected 3.1% growth. Namibia's economic growth is forecast to pick up slightly this year, and the budget deficit will narrow, its finance minister said in a budget speech on Thursday. The resource-rich South African country public finance have taken a hit from a plunge in global diamond prices, although strong gold and uranium prices have been a mitigating factor. It's aiming for its first crude oil output by 2030, which could transform its small economy. Finance Minister Erika Shafuda said gross domestic product was forecast to grow 3.1% this year, higher than last year, 2.9% growth. The overall budget deficit is expected to decrease to 5.5% of GDP in the fiscal year that starts on April 1st from 6.6% in the current fiscal year. The Finance Ministry aims to narrow the deficit further to 3.8% in 2027 and 2028 fiscal year and 3.3% in 2028 and 2029. Total government debt is seen reaching 65.2% of GDP this fiscal year before stabilizing around 67.5% over the government's medium-term framework. Now to sports news. South Sudanese President Salva Kiir Mayardit has reaffirmed his government's unwavering commitment to developing the sports industry as a means of unlocking the full potential of the country's youth. During a meeting with Minister of Youth and Sports Marina Y. Martin, the president was briefed on ongoing initiatives and future plans aimed at strengthening the sector. Among the key milestones highlighted was the admission of the South Sudan Paralympic Committee into the International Paralympic Committee, marking a major step in the country's international sporting recognition. The minister also outlined the recent parliamentary endorsement of the Youth Development Policy and the Sports Development Policy to a landmark framework designed to guide the professionalization and long-term growth of sport nationwide. In a symbolic moment, President Kiir received a trophy won by the South Sudan blind football team following their historic victory at the African Championship in Kampala. The meeting was attended by Lol Deng, president of the South Sudan Basketball Federation, who announced that the national women's team, the Bright Starlets, will travel to Wuhan, China to compete in the World Cup qualifiers from March 11 to 17, 2026. President Kiir urged continued engagement with young people across the country, encouraging them to channel their energy toward nation building through sports and positive development initiatives. Thank you for joining us on Pulse of Africa News. Until next time, goodbye.